Okay, so it's been another month, and I have for you another reading wrap-up. Ooh, that almost fell. So, let's just get into it, I guess. So I read 8 books in the month of November, and it was kind of a slow reading month for me, but I read some really good ones, so it kind of makes up for it. The first book that I read was Wildfire by Hannah Grace, and it's a summer camp romance type thing, and there is spice in it, so this is a spicier book, probably not for younger people. The banter in it is so great. Like, they are the literal king and queen of banter because they just do it so well, and they bond over their daddy issues a lot. I think that part of the book might have been slightly overdone. Like, I would have toned it down a little, but it was a good thing to connect them in a way, which was good because they have to connect on something to form that relationship. And then there was also some cameos from characters from the previous book, Icebreaker, which I thought was fun. And yeah, it was just a really fun book, and I gave it 4.75 stars. The next book I read was Ignite Me by Tahiri Mofti. I think I'm getting better at saying her name. And I gave it 4.5 stars. I borrowed it from the library, so picture somewhere. And it does have some spice in it, if I'm remembering right. And Aaron Warner just has my entire heart. Like, he's just so awesome. Love him. And it was a kind of like take over the government type book, so very Divergent, Hunger Games, that era. You can tell that that's when these books were written, and there are more books that come after it, but I feel like personally I might stop. I did borrow the next one from the library, but it ended in such a nice way that I honestly might just not read the next one, because it ends and it's great and I love the ending of it. It ties everything up nicely, and so I might just stop there. And the writing style of it, I really like the way that this author wrote these books, because they're written and they're not a normal way of writing that anyone else I've seen writes with. It's very, you can tell it's her thoughts and her brain, and like the way it's written is how a person would think and then like rethink things, and so things are crossed out, or like they don't have a period because it's like an open thought. So I thought that was kind of cool, that it's a very different and unique style of writing, and I really liked that. The next 2 books that I read were audiobooks. I read Still Hung Up on You by Liz Maverick, and I gave it 3.5 stars, and there wasn't any spice in it, because they're just on the phone for most of the book until the very end, and it's a second chance romance. They dated all through high school, and she randomly one day calls him all these years later, I think it's like 10 years later or something, calls him and is wondering if she can get a sweater back from him that she left when they broke up. And he was so confused. He isn't at home right now, but he tells her, hey, like, here's where a key is, you can go stay at my house, I won't be there until you find it, like, you can check all the boxes in the attic, that type of thing. And they just call back and forth for the whole thing. This audiobook, there was 2 different voice actors, which I loved, and so it felt like an actual conversation in a movie in my head from this, and it was great. And just the way that it was performed by these voice actors was so amazing. And it was just short and sweet. I think it was only like 2 or 3 hours of audiobook, and so it was really short, but it was nice. It was kind of like just watching a movie but listening to it. Anyways, the next book I read was The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. Yes. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. There is a little bit of spice in it. It's about this girl, Vivi, who I think they're in college when this happens. Like, he comes to the town because he's from Europe or somewhere. It's been a while since I listened to this. He's from Europe or somewhere over there, and he comes to her hometown for college, for a year or semester of college, and they strike up a little romance, and he breaks her heart, and so she puts a hex on him because they're witches, warlocks, that type of thing. And so she puts a hex on him, and she's just meaning it as a joke. Like, she didn't actually mean to curse him or anything, but she ends up actually cursing him. And so he comes back a couple years later for some family stuff, and all these things start happening that are these like awful things to the town and to him. And they just have to figure out, they reconnect, they have to figure out how to get him uncursed, type of thing. And that was really cool. It was very like just vibes. I kind of wish I would have read it / listened to it in October, but I read it so soon after Halloween that I was still in that mood for kind of like witches and spells and that type of thing. Definitely gave me fall vibes, so I was okay with it still. And then I read / listened to the audiobook of One Dark Window, and it's a fantasy book about this girl named Elsbeth. I kind of told you guys about this already, but I'll tell you again. This girl named Elsbeth, and something happens to her when she's a kid, and she ends up getting this thing called, well, she calls it Nightmare, and it's a monster, and it lives inside of her head, and kind of gives her certain abilities that you learn throughout the book. And in this world, there are these cards that contain magic, so if you use the cards, you can use whatever magic is contained in that card. But they make a very big deal that there's always a price for using magic. So, like, some of the cards, like, there's a card that will give you beauty, but it makes your soul ugly, and like it makes you a terrible person. Like, you lose all of your kindness and stuff, but it makes you so beautiful. So it's like those kind of trade-offs. And then she meets the captain of the Destriel, and I don't remember his name, but they start to fall in love, and there is other things that happen, but I don't want to give things away, so I won't say anything. And you just learn more of the lore of the kingdom and the history of the kingdom, and how some people know one side of history but don't know the actual true side of what actually happened back when their kingdom was forming. And so I love this book. I'm so excited to read the second one, Two Twisted Crowns, I believe it's called. Yeah, so excited for that. The end of this book, I was like, so that was really good. Oh, and then I didn't say, I think I gave this, I gave it 4.5, and there's a little bit of spice in it. So, do with that what you will. Okay, and then the next book I read was Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her YA, her new YA, because she usually writes adult, but this is considered YA. I would, yeah. Anyways, and it's about, this guy, he's the chess champion of the whole world, and then she used to be really into chess when she was younger, and her dad taught her how to play chess, and then things happen that you find out about later in the book, and she stops doing chess at like age of 13 or 14, I think. And so then her dad leaves them, and she has to start taking care of her mom because her mom's sick. And she has 2 younger sisters that she also takes care of, and they're very poor, and she ends up getting fired from her job. So she is trying to find a new job, and somebody approaches her, asking her if she would be willing to come play chess and compete and learn and study chess, and they will pay her for it, and it's a very good wages, and she would win any of the competitions that she would win for chess, the tournaments. She would get to keep all of those winnings, and just, it was a very good deal. And so her friend talks her into doing that, and things take off from there. She ends up meeting the world chess champion, and yeah, they form a friendship at first, because she is not looking for anything, any sort of relationship or anything, but obviously this is a romance novel, so there's going to be some romance. It was really good. I think the struggles that they have, that she has, and the things that they go through were pretty not relatable in a way, but also like believable, because it's like, oh yeah, that could definitely happen. So I don't know, I'm just rambling at this point. There's a little bit of spice in this, and I give it 4 stars, and that is all. Okay, and then the next book I read was Iron Flame. This book came out last month on the 7th, and by Rebecca Yarros. We love our dear Rebecca. I gave this one 3.5 stars, which is sad because I gave Fourth Wing 5 stars. I gave Fourth Wing 6 stars, actually, because it was one of my favorite books I've read this year. 3.5 stars for this one. There is some spice in it. Not some. There is spice in this. And where do I begin with this book? I'll talk about things I love first. Love and Darna. So sassy. We love to see her just kind of push back on the authority that Taryn gives her. And you learn why she pushes back at the end of the book. And then I also love, what else do I love? I love Xaden. I love Xaden so much. I think he's just, Violet bugged me in this book because Xaden is trying his very darn hardest to keep this relationship going, and she just wants to fight about the same thing over and over again. And he just is trying his very hardest to have patience and work things out with her, and so I love him for that, because I know I would not have that much patience. I also love Jasenia. She is you meet her in the first book. She's deaf and she's a scribe, and so she works in the scribe quadrant in the library and that type of stuff, and so she helps them get books that they need for certain things that you will find out about when you read it. And she's a pretty important, I would say she's a pretty important character for them to be able to succeed in those goals that they have for those certain things that I cannot mention. I love Riddick. I think he was such a just, I don't know, he was just so cute the whole time, and like just dumb but cute. Like he was a Ken, but like a smarter Ken. Like, I don't know, love Riddick so much. Redemption arcs. I loved the Imogen Gar redemption arc. She gets a tiny one in Fourth Wing, but I love seeing her relationship with Violet just expand in this book, and see them together more often, and like how that relationship goes and stuff. The end had me stressed out. I won't tell you anything that happens, but it had me so stressed out. But I will say that because of what happens, I have so many theories in my head of like how things could go, where Miss Rebecca will take it in the next book, because she could take it so many different ways. And I know what way that I want her to take it, but we'll see if that actually happens. So, yeah. That's all about this book. Yeah. And then the last book I read this month was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I gave this one, how much did I give it? 4.75 stars. I knew I didn't give it quite 5. Because Beach Read, I love Beach Read so much. And this was so close, I think, to meeting that. It gets a 4.75. It's about two, they call them rivals in the book, but I don't really call them rivals. I think they just get off on the wrong foot and dislike each other for a little bit, and then they turn to friends, and then they turn to lovers. And so the female main character, her name is Nora, and she is a literary agent, and so she has clients that she will send their books to different editors. And so then there's Charlie, and he's the editor, and so she had meetings with him, and they dislike each other because they had a meeting that wasn't very good when the first time they met. And but then she ends up going to this town with her sister, that is written about in one of her clients' books. And turns out that he actually lives in this town, and they start hanging out more and getting closer and working together more, and just I love them so much. I love them so much. It's a very slow burn. There is spice in it, but it's not for a while into it. It's probably like maybe 3/4 into the book, 2/3 into the book, then you get the spice. The end, like right here in the book, my heart was just breaking so much, and I was so sad, and I was like, they're not gonna end up together. What? And yeah, so your heart will feel so sad. I didn't cry, but my heart ached for them. They're just so cute. So that was all of the books that I read in November, and it was a good reading month. I don't think I did anything lower than a 3.5 star, so that was great. And yeah. Anyways, okay, well, I'll see you guys later. Bye!